The longer the period, the greater the risk. Anything could happen on a longer term profile, whereas for shorter term period, there may be less risk. So it is common practice that limits or so-called lines are set up between counterparties, that I will have risk of these banks in these amounts. Again, this is anyway not a matter of Islamic finance, but generally speaking, these limits are not, the actual amounts are not disclosed between counterparties. You can discover by over trial and error over a period of time. So this process is common because this is actually a risk assessment, and Islamic finance is not outside that range. In fact, this is the strength, that is the riba which is not accepted as such, but otherwise a proper risk assessment should be central to Islamic finance as such as well. Now, having established that you have this limit, you have the job, you have got 50 million to place or to put for certain period, 1 week or 1 month, then you will have a choice between various counterparties to deal, whoever may give you the highest and who should be within the limits. If I have limit of 50 million with bank A and already placed 40 million, now the available exposure then is of course only 10 million left. So a dealer would be mindful of this, that his free exposure. So most treasuries will have a list of what the overall exposure is and then what is free exposure for the day. And so they have those limits. Based on it, I'm giving you hopefully more practical insight than a theoretical way in which the markets function. I'm just describing how it works in a dealing room and back office of a treasury in an Islamic institution. And some of these things are common between Islamic institutions and conventional. Now, establishing this, where we can place, what we can have the best rate, the mechanism how the placement is done is what is commonly called commodity murabaha transaction. So the way it works is that I think most of the people would be familiar, but very briefly I describe how it actually works. I need to place certain money. I will ask that certain party to buy a commodity which should be Sharia acceptable, mainly copper, aluminium, one of these commodities. I will ask a counterparty to buy this commodity for me for cash settlement. It is possible that the counterparty I have chosen, I can assign this task as in he can be my agent in the marketplace to acquire this commodity. This commodity will be acquired, and mostly there will be commodity brokers, commodity dealers. So this other bank will employ, so to say, one of the brokerage houses. Larger institutions and larger amount of dealings take place out of London Metal Exchange. So there will be brokers in London who will purchase this commodity for the party, for us, if I am the party who is placing money. So, but I will appoint the bank with whom I make the placement to be my agent to purchase this commodity. Having purchased this commodity for me, so I am now the owner of this commodity. I will sell this commodity for future under a murabaha agreement. So I bought it at 100, this commodity overall, and I will find out what rate I can sell by number of houses and number of banks, counterparties. So wherever gives me the highest, and I will have to say that this is a 3-month deal. So I am giving you under murabaha, I am selling it now, but you will pay me back in 3 months' time. So whoever gives me the highest value for the commodity I am selling will get the deal. So party A says 101, another says 101 and a quarter, whatever. So I will choose the highest. In this way, what I have done, I have sold the commodity outright under a Murabaha agreement, and I will get the funds in 3 months' time. Now, this difference between the price at which I purchased, and there may be some dealing cost, buying commodity, I may have to pay some money to the commodity broker. So taking the costs out of the equation, what I sold it for, less what I paid for it, less the cost of the transaction is my gain over the period of 3 months. Simple arithmetic can be deployed to calculate the rate of return for that period. Naturally, I chose the party which is available within my limits, the financial institutions within my limits, and to the extent I have the limits, I will be able to deal, and I will then sell the commodity and create a debt. Basically, Murabaha then is a debt. The bank A, of course, I didn't mention here, commodity Murabaha agreement between counterparties is signed beforehand, that this mechanism through which I am doing the transaction is acceptable to the party concerned, so that if there is any dispute, that binding agreement is the one to fall back upon. Normally, if you are dealing in the banking sector, banks are regulated by the central banks. It is very rare to have any dispute to occur, because and this is the element which is called gharar, that the contract should be such that there should be no ambiguity. But as you can see, the whole issue is that you are making some funds available, you have sold a commodity, you are going to be paid back for it at a certain amount, will be paid to you at a certain time and certain date, pre-agreed. So there is very little room for dispute anyway. So this is how the commodity Murabaha functions. A certain period, and a commodity can be specified which will be sold and then bought and sold as well. And the chain of events has to take place in the order I have stated. You cannot sell it before you own it. So by this transaction, by this instruction, the commodity was purchased, and thereafter the deal has been done. But the counterparty can be the agent for as well, or you can deploy without being an agent. It could be independent party, but normally the practice is the party you are placing the money is the agent for acquisition of this commodity. Going forward, one straight difference here as well as conventional is the same, that when you have a placement made by the party in the conventional market, you cannot quash the deal, you cannot actually liquefy the deal, because what you have said is, I place so much money in the conventional market at such and such rate for such and such period. You cannot go back to him, ask the money, it was done for 3 months, after 1 month require the money to be paid back earlier. In exceptional situation, this happens, that the other party may allow you money to be paid back. In that case, any return for the period since the placement was made is not given. Now, in terms of the Islamic placement, something similar applies. That this now is a debt, is a debt of the other party. This cannot be traded, because Sharia-wise, debts cannot be traded as such. It can be, unless it is at face value, which economically does not justify. So hence there is a lack of liquidity in such placements. Now, what can be done to overcome that? Naturally, you have placed money for different periods, hence, and now I will come to asset liability management, and you will see how it is controlled activity. You do not place money unless you know when these sums of money which you are placing every day, this money will be required to be paid back. So you have to have an idea for how long you are placing money. That is determined by the business needs of the financial institution concerned. But before we go into it, one other thing can be done. As you have placed the money with party A, B, C, you may have or you will have some reciprocal arrangement that those institutions can also place money with you. So if you have placed money with bank A and B, generally speaking, there will be some arrangement that they can place money with you as well. So what happens in practice is, you have placed money with the bank A for 3 months. After 1 month, you have the need and you don't have any liquidity at a given point in time. Naturally, you plan ahead and make sure that such a situation doesn't arise. But in the market practice, these occasions come. There's a sukuk issuance, there's a bond issuance, where there's an opportunity in which you want to invest. So what you will do is, you will go around with those parties where you have reciprocal agreements and arrangements, and this is called reverse murabaha. That you have placed money, strictly speaking, you're not linking the two. You're not saying I have given you 50 million, out of which you give me 10 million back, because this is a separate murabaha agreement which you are going to do as such. It is possible that that party itself doesn't have money at that day. So you will go from party A to party B to party C. It is a normal practice that institutions have these agreements in place to as wide a number of places as possible. So you have possibility of placement with 20 banks, 10 or 15 or 12. You will have arrangements for reverse murabaha. That means when I need the money, I can call upon you to give me under the same murabaha, commodity murabaha arrangement, some funds. Naturally, there is no linkage as far as the Sharia side is concerned. Instead of fixing the rate beforehand in the conventional market, the rate emerges as a consequence of a decision you have taken. Decision to buy a certain commodity and then sell that commodity. So the result, there is a rate, but it's calculated from the dealing you have done, rather than say, what rate will you give me? 2.3, 3.4, what? Which is what happens in the conventional marketplace. The end result that you get a rate is a consequence of the transaction you have done. Now, if you, under the reverse murabaha agreement, it is no linkage between the previous rate and the deal you have done. That deal is completed. That deal is finished. Money will come back to you at a certain period of time, at a certain rate or profit rate will emerge. Now you need the money for a different period. Market circumstances may change as well anyway. They continuously change. The different period rates vary. 1 month rate today will be whatever it is. Tomorrow, next day, a week, it will be different rate. And for different periods, different rates emerge. So you can do a reciprocal under the arrangements you have of reverse murabaha. You can raise funds against what you have already given and you have a need. So this is how it works. Naturally, it is no substitute for proper financial planning, under which money has been placed for different periods and you have sufficient money at given point in time, which is what you will need. But this is an arrangement which is useful. The credit risks, the risk you are taking of the counterparty of the bank, still apply the same way as it is in the conventional market. What I am saying is, under the arrangement of the interbank market, one bank takes the risk of another bank, that particular bank will pay back at a given point in time in future. So this murabaha agreement is of similar nature. What you are saying is that I feel confident that the bank I am giving the money to, in the sum which was agreed, this money will be repaid by that bank in due course. So this is what is called credit risk. You are taking the risk of the credibility and credit of the counterparty where you are placing the money.